I'm actually not even sure if the timing for my review of the Audeze iSine 10 is either very good or very bad, just because on CES 2018, just a few days ago, they announced the iSine LX, which have the same DNA of the iSine 10 and 20, but just cost $200 instead of around $400 of the iSine 10. But either way, the way I see these is the following. I actually never reviewed in-ears, which doesn't even matter because they don't sound like in-ears at all, and that kind of leads me to a story, and it was nice that I was in Kanjan because that one gave me so many good stories. I heard just side by side the LCD3 and LCD2, and next to them always the iSine 1020 and also LCD i4 were there all the time, and I looked at them and I thought, should I check them since I'm already here? But I thought, it's an in-ear, what's it supposed to sound like? Great in-ears, yeah, maybe. But I switched instantly from an LCD, I think it was the 3, to the LCD i4, which maybe wasn't the best decision because this was the high-end in-ear, and I was so baffled that it sounded just about the same. I mean, in terms of characteristics, I had this same open wide stage, this clarity, the bass and everything. It was so amazing. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's the expensive one. Let's go down to the 20 and 10. And especially the 10, which were on sale for 350 euros, where they usually cost 480. I was impressed, but a little bit more about that later. So let's check what we actually get. Of course, the headphones here with the replaceable cable. And actually, since we're already talking about that, this is the normal cable. And I have to say, I don't like these flat cables. They are called, I think, tangle-free, but actually they tangle up way more. And I generally don't like them. They kind of always do what they want, and they are not really flexible, and I simply don't think they are all that great. They work, yes, absolutely. And I also think that this separation actually is a little bit too short. I would wish for this part where they actually split up to be a little bit longer, but yeah, that's maybe just me. But this is just one cable. The second one that you at least get in this version here, there is also one without, is the cipher cable, and it just doesn't sound cool. It also is absolutely great. I'll get into why that is the case a little bit later. I have to say though, this part, the remote control for the iPhone and or Apple devices is very heavy, and unless you have an option to maybe clip it somewhere, because there is a clip included, I think this is a little bit almost of a deal breaker because it's so heavy and it drags on the headphones or the in-ears all the time. Of course, on one end we have the lightning cable. Now, what you also get is this carrying case, which is empty, but you can actually take this part out, which is quite hard and I don't want to do it, and store them very safely. So you have them flush and then you put this whole thing into this case and you are good to go. I personally was too lazy to always do that, so I just put them in here like this. You also get 3 different sizes of tips, which unfortunately I did not get with my review unit, so I only had these, and I didn't have a perfect fit, I have to say. It was good enough, but I think I lost a little bit of some seal because when I pushed them in, sound was even better. But that's pretty much about that. You get these replaceable tips. You also get 2 ones that you put in your ear. I actually don't even want to go into these because I'm not even sure where I have them. Somewhere else. It doesn't matter. I would just recommend you to use these. It would have been nice to have maybe a clear one, but yeah. One thing that you will notice once I actually put them on, which will be in a few seconds, is that they look massive in your ears, and that's the first thing that everyone said to me. But let's just get to this. If you put them on, you can see that they stick out quite a lot. And I'm not quite sure if I have them perfectly this way, because I would expect them to sit a little bit more flush like this, but my ears just don't allow that. And of course you have to adjust them the way you want it, but you will definitely see quite a lot of them. But if audio quality on the go is important for you, I would say it's totally well worth it. Now about the comfort, I have to say, usually I cannot ever wear any in-ears, and that's why I usually don't review them for an extended period of time, because they just drop out of my right ear. That's just an issue of my ear. That's also a thing with over-ears, that they kind of touch, but I'm very sensitive to my right ear, and these, due to this hook, stayed in all the time. Now, what I also have sometimes on headphones is that they don't maybe fall out, but that they are uncomfortable. And I have to say, I think if I would have had the right tips, that would have been a little bit smaller and I would have gotten a little bit further in, it would have been even more so comfortable, because they never really got uncomfortable. I had them once on my ear for the whole workday for like 8 hours, and after like 5 or 6 hours, this hook got a little bit soaring to my ear, but it was absolutely fine. And the great thing was, even though if you kind of get against the cable, they kind of moved, but they never fell out of my ear. They never lost quality, so they never kind of dropped out or anything. They were always secure in my ear, which is something super important for me, because it's just not ever happening. And yes, there are other headphones or in-ears with these hooks that stay like this, but at least I did not expect it to be working that well, even though maybe a little bit of a more elegant solution, because if this wouldn't have been plastic but maybe also soft touch rubberized, it wouldn't have been maybe so soaring. But yeah, I can't really complain, because they sit in my ear and they didn't really bother me, because for multiple hours they were just sitting kind of on my ear, not really deep in, but it was never uncomfortable or anything after a period of time. Yes. The great thing actually, what I did not expect about these, since they are open ear, if you listen loud, a little bit more quiet to music, it actually feels like the music is coming from somewhere completely somewhere else. Because I was talking with someone and a new track started, and I just looked around me, where's the sound coming from? And then, yeah, I remember, but I had these still in. Because if you have them in, you can hear people just about as good as if you don't have them in, which is amazing. And if you listen very quiet, you get this kind of surrounding sound that it's just there. You don't really even feel it. And this is actually the main part that I want to go into, about the experience of why these sound not like an in-ear but an headphone. And I really mean like a headphone with a big soundstage. Because when I switch from the LCD 2 or 3 to these, I had the same open whites, and it's really hard to explain this, because I've never experienced this on an in-ear. Of course, I haven't really reviewed many. The usual ones that I've used over the past were, let's say, cheaper ones, and definitely not even close to these. But the experience that you have with these is just pretty much about the same as you would have a big Audeze can on your ears. This is so amazing, because on the go, you get pretty much the same high quality audiophile grade sound. And I think that's totally worth it, having something a little bit more clumsy on your ears, because it's not that bad. People will look at you a little bit weird at the first moment, but then it's fine. If they would maybe be able to make it smaller, yes, okay, but it's not possible, because they are magnetic, planar magnetic, and you just need the space. That's pretty much about it. So how do they actually sound? Let's actually get quickly into the cipher cable and the normal one. What I did is actually use these with the normal cable at first, and on a decent phone, I would say most people are able to drive them well enough, at least in terms of maximum volume. For me, it was almost there, but it wasn't really a good phone that I had them with, and what I just used was the Ultrasound NAOS that I'm gonna review as well, which is a small DAC. You can use it with different kinds of cables, and then just use the 3.5mm jack, and there are different ones available, but this one was able to easily push it, and it gave me just better sound. Because of the better DAC, I had more depth in the sound, and everything else was better. But this is about the normal cable. Now, if you have an iPhone, I tried it with an iPad Air 2 since I don't have one, the quality is a lot better than on the normal iPhone or iPad sound with the 3.5mm jack or adapter, I guess. I never tried the DAC, the small one, the dongle. And it makes no sense to actually use it if you have an iPhone. It makes no sense to use the dongle if you have the cipher cable. The only issue, like I said, is that this cable drags, the remote drags quite hard. But therefore you get controls. And this cable, as you can actually see here, just real quick, all the electronics are in this part. That's why also, actually this doesn't make sense, because it shows this part here, where it's just not, because it's at the remote control. So that's a little bit misleading, but it doesn't change. It doesn't change the fact that it definitely improves the sound a lot. Sound gets more structured in the bass. You get better mids. You get definitely way more volume and overall quality. So it definitely is well worth it. If you have an iPhone, this is your done solution. You don't need any extra decks or anything. It sounds great. But now, what does it actually sound like besides like a headphone? I just have to say, amazing. They are very neutral, which is what I did not expect, because I expected them to be way more bassy, because all the in-ears that I've tried usually are very bassy. These have a good, not actually good, great bass, because it extends very deep, it's multi-layered, it has a great depth to it, but it never ever gets too heavy. It actually maybe stays a little bit more in the background because it definitely does not overemphasize the bass. And if you want a very neutral, audiophile grade, balanced, accurate bass, these are the ones to go for. And if you use them with your iPhone, you can just download the Audeze app. Not quite sure how it's called actually. And then you have, I think it's an 8 or 10 band equalizer to adjust things. Personally, I've tried it, but whenever I changed something, it didn't really get worse, but it just changed what it was like. And I liked the kind of neutral balance, the signature of their own. I didn't really want to change anything because highs were super clear, crystal clear, but never harsh. I could listen very loud, and I've listened to them at least on one day straight, like for 7 hours, and they never fatigued me. The mids also super nice, and you have this wide open soundstage, which is just so unbelievable. If you are somewhere on the go and you listen to them very loud, it just feels like you would be surrounded by music, but it's not actually coming out of yours because you don't feel like the sound is coming from here. It's coming from everywhere, and it's kind of in your head as well, which is so amazing because vocals nicely placed, like about on the same level as the instruments. They kind of stand out a little bit, but not too much. And you get the nice definition of the instruments and the vocals with the very precise, detailed and high-grade bass. It just is never really too forward. If you want that, with the iPhone you can get that. On an Android device or something like that, you would maybe need a third-party equalizer, which would be okay. And people who want that definitely need it. I personally think I would have had a little bit more bass if these would have fit in a little bit deeper in my ear, which usually I use smaller tips than these, but I didn't have them. When I pushed them further in, I got a little bit more bass, and then I actually would say that there is no need to change anything. Of course, people tell me that they do change things. I did not see it necessary. But now, when I explain all of these characteristics, it sounds like, yeah, the sound is good, but it is not good on a good in-ear level. This is good on a, like, almost $500, $600, $700, $800 on-ear, because the sound is so natural, so clear, so defined, so well structured, so mature, on an easy $400 level. Sometimes they are even cheaper. Like I said, $350 on the sale in Germany instead of $480, which is definitely a great deal. And they are well worth it. If you listen a lot on the go and you don't mind the bigger size, you don't mind it being open, because the thing is, open doesn't bother me, because it's actually nice to hear, to be aware of your surroundings, because usually when I listen very loud on in-ears, I feel kind of closed off and I don't really notice the surrounding of me so much, so I actually don't like it so much. With these, I completely have the awareness, and if I listen loud enough, I don't bother about the outside noises, but the thing is, people outside will hear you, so I'm not quite sure if I would use these all that confident, maybe in a train or something like that, because people will hear you quite a lot. That's something you have to decide. Of course, with big over ears, sometimes they hear you as well, or with in ears actually as well, but this is just more dominant here. But if you are just maybe outside where no one gets bothered, you want this great sound, $400 is almost to steal what you get in terms of sound quality, because for a can that sounds as good as these, you will have to pay at least that, if not actually a lot more, and then you just have the convenience of it being easily to be pushed. Of course, if you use them with a proper headphone amp, you can get even more sound out of it. On the iPhone, not necessary at all, but I'm not quite sure what else to say. They are absolutely amazing, and I would really like to try them, compare them maybe to the Monolith M300, which are half the price, or the LX, but the problem with the LX is they won't come to Europe, at least not officially, because it seems, if I didn't get that wrong from what I heard on CES, they are US exclusive, which is a bummer because they look nice for the price, and if they have the same DNA of these, but yeah, they will be better. After all, I don't think that Audeze would release a $200 competitor to these on the same level, so there will be some differences, but not to make this any longer. $400, well worth it, because I don't see any flaws. Top. And I'm usually someone who doesn't really even use in-ears, because I, on the go, when I am somewhere, usually at my workplace or somewhere else, I don't listen to music, so I don't need them. But after using these for a few days at work also, I thought about maybe I should get something like this, even though I don't really need it, and especially not something expensive, because it won't make just so much sense. But if I think I would get these. Because I don't think, after being spoiled by all the many great over-ears, that I could get back to a normal in-ear monitor, because I don't think that I would get the sound, because I want a headphone sound. I don't want the typical kind of in-ear sound that I get from all my other headphones. And if music is important for you, on the go, these are a go. Okay, not to make this any longer. Yes. Bye. Until next time.